The demise of Emma has transformed Miles into a vessel of bubbling fury. Subsequently he briskly regulates the execution of a previous companion and civilian army confidant. Neville and his Georgian fortifications appear, while Miles is somewhere down in the jug. Considering the deficiency of his previous love, Neville makes sense of Courage has authorized him as an official of the Georgia League. They are accomplices currently even. However, Miles needs to kill Neville right there. Neville says they have greater issues on their hands. Monroe is weaponizing Bacillus anthracis and he is utilizing Dr. Ethan Camp to do it. Charlie makes her reluctance had some significant awareness of working with Neville as Miles and the Gathering board a steam-controlled boat to do their mission to capture Dr. Camp. All that matters to Miles is halting Monroe, and Neville can assist him with accomplishing this. The boat sets out acting like a fishing vessel. Neville approaches Jason to request a ceasefire, yet Jason is persuaded his dad doesn't mind what side he is on as lengthy as he is in charge. Neville explains he is with the Georgians since Jason is a trickster. He makes sense of he had to escape Philadelphia with Julia and she created hypothermia which nearly killed her enlisting in the Georgian armed forces. How he needed to endure in the meantime. Aaron and Rachel have reached the Thompson travel terrains of the fields country. Finding a town, they ask for food, however a town senior dismisses them. In Philadelphia, Randall attempts to reason with Monroe, who has not yet recuperated from the shot injury he supported in Jasper. He recommends Monroe's new radical and vicious explosions could not be the best technique in the event that they are to lessen the dissidents, reminding Randall that he is only a person. Monroe takes steps to tear his throat out in the event that he keeps on censuring him as Miles and his group gear up for their main goal. Neville chooses to remain on the boat. Niles and his Gathering capture Dr. Camp and explode his lab prior to getting back on board their boat when Dr. Camp awakens. Miles and Neville offer a final proposal. It is possible that he begins working for Georgia, or they will hurt his family while Miles was hijacking Dr. Camp. Neville and his men caught Camp's significant other and little girl. If he needs to see them again, Camp will need to work for Georgia. Charlie is irate with Miles' hard readiness to hijack honest regular citizens. Later, Nora tells Miles she is moving to one more unit as she is angry with Miles being cool about working with Neville. Late around evening time, a similar town senior comes after Aaron and Rachel for taking food. He means on rebuffing the pair for their wrongdoing by shooting them with a gun before he can kill them. Rachel threatens to use her very own weapon and shoots him as certain townspeople race toward the beginning of the shot. Aaron and Rachel quickly get away. In the mayhem of their getaway, Rachel tumbles down a gorge. Furthermore, snaps her leg. The locals close in. What's more, Aaron acts rapidly, conveying Rachel to a destroyed vehicle that will go about as cover. Realizing they are both dead if he stays, Rachel asks Aaron to go to the tower alone and save himself, yet Aaron rejects. Camp asks Charlie to deliver his youthful girl when a Monroe's local army boat stops them for a normal check. Neville and Charlie hide with Dr. Camp in a mysterious compartment. Neville puts a firearm to Camp's head, saying in the event that Georgia can't have him, nobody can, except for Charlie is thoughtful to Camp's own life and puts a weapon on Neville's head to make sure the specialist stays alive. When the everything is good to go, the Gathering ventures out of concealing. Neville slaps Charlie for undermining him. Miles hammers Neville against the mass of the boat, announcing, assuming he at any point contacts Charlie again, Miles will kill him. The men from the Traveler town get up to speed to Rachel and her hideaway when she runs out of slugs. Endeavoring to fight them off, they enter the vehicle and put a rifle on her. Go abruptly. Aaron leaves away from no place. What's more, cuts one of the men just to get handled by the other and gagged as the Noman squeezes his hands into Aaron's throat. Rachel goes after the dead man's firearm and fires the leftover warrior. Charlie stands up to Miles for this entirety. Activity has gone excessively far. Miles has put a weapon to the head of Dr. Camp's girl, so he can have a sickness produced. She thinks doing no better is as well. Then Monroe. Miles realizes Monroe will stop at nothing to kill them, so he sees his activities as a legitimate necessary evil. There isn't anything Lunar won't do when Miles will not let Camp and his loved ones go. Charlie secures him in the lower part of the boat as Jason takes out Neville. With chloroform along with Nora, they assume control over the boat and request the area of Dr. Camp's family from the boat's skipper Scratch, causing it to show up as assuming their boat has been deserted. Charlie, what's more, her gathering trap the boat, holding onto Dr. Camp's family and salvage them anyway. Neville figures out how to get away, stopping the damage as he moves to unexpectedly kill Charlie. Miles shows up and punches Neville, orders Lucas to fire on Miles similarly as he is going to pull the trigger. The melee shaman who looked through the boat before discharge from the shore as a hard and fast firearm fight results. Miles, Charlie, Jason and Nora departure in one of the boats with Dr. Camp and his family later at a dissident camp. Neville jumps in on Miles with his weapon drawn. Miles unhesitatingly lets Neville realize he won't ever track down Camp. When Neville takes steps to take his soldiers and weapons back to Georgia, Miles clashes. The dissidents are piling up additional triumphs consistently, and that is all President Cultivate thinks often about. Neville's power has been taken from him. Later, Nora approaches Miles alone when he inquires as to whether she is as yet leaving. Nora offers enchantment as her response, protected from approaching peril. Rachel urges Aaron to proceed to the pinnacle without her. Turning on the power is a reason she is able to pass on, for it is vital that Aaron explicitly arrived at the pinnacle. Dr. Warren's diary resembles a spell book. Rachel educates Aaron to open the diary to page 74, which includes an old paper article about Aaron in Ashland, Kentucky. Monroe's local army troops checked the sky with an improvised radar unit manipulated up inside a trailer at the Revolutionary base. Nora prepares for watch later, going through the night with Miles outside. Neville provokes Jason to kill him. Neville places his gun in Jason's grasp. In any case, Jason can't pull the trigger. When Jason stalks off, Charlie tumbles to sympathize. In the interim, Aaron is still fixating on why he is in Dr. Warren's diary. Rachel is worried about why of everyone individuals to whom Ben could have given his pendant, he picked Aaron. Needs to continue to move, however they are held stable because of Rachel's physical issue. Acknowledging he won't ever leave her, Rachel takes out Danny's case expectation on taking a stab at mending her leg back at the dissident base. Charlie and Jason spy volunteer army warrior planes above and race to sound the alert before everybody can get to their individual positions. The local army drones fire on the base in a flashback to 7 years after the lights went out. Rachel meets with Miles soon after leaving her family, promising she knows comparably a lot about betraying as Ben does. Unconvinced, Miles demands he still needs Ben. However, Rachel claims Ben has no interest in walking out on. Furthermore, she moves in the present day. Stunned, Miles awakens in the midst of the consuming trash of the bombarded rebel base. He hurries to help Nora, who is caught in The rubble, a weighty haze of smoke, has fallen over the camp and Charlie is mysteriously absent. Neville shows up, asking how the volunteer army might have known their area. No doubt the renegades have a mole in their middle. Nora illuminates. Miles, Charlie and Jason went north before the rocket assault. When Miles hears Monroe's state army is walking from that bearing, he sets off alongside Nora and Neville to save his confidants. Charlie is heaving to inhale, caught under a heap of rubble. Her shouts unheard in a neglected electronics store. Aaron revamps an old Macintosh as indicated by Dr. Warren's diary, endeavoring to outfit the energy of Danny's container. If Aaron can inspire it to work, the container could recuperate her bone and join up her wounds. Yet on the off chance that it doesn't work accurately, it could cook them both from within. Out in the wake of driving and programming the case, Aaron places it inside Rachel's twisted. Regardless of her horrible shouts, the expanding wound intertwines and the break is supernaturally fixed. Sadly, the pair are trapped by a gathering of trackers drove by Lee, who requests to realize what simply happened. Jeremy is certain that the state army's flying attack on the agitators was fruitful. It is basically impossible that Miles may do so. Jeremy urges Monroe to celebrate with his men at a close-by bar, to which he in the long run concurs as the men stroll across the road. Monroe's watchmen are unexpectedly shot and a firefight breaks out. Monroe figures out how to hide, yet presently he contemplates whether he was driven into a death endeavor by Jeremy. Monroe blames Jeremy for endeavoring to have him killed. Jeremy was completely uncovered during the assault on Monroe, yet didn't get a scratch. Jeremy attempts to dissuade him, asserting to be his final faithful companion. In any case, Monroe doesn't pay attention to him and has him killed by his men north of the rebel base. Miles and Nora take out a couple Minutemen, then, at that point, find Jason scarcely capable to talk. When the assault hit, Charlie was in the ringer tower, which fell, and he couldn't find her. Jason tells the three to continue on and requests a weapon. Neville sends Miles and Nora on their way, promising to deal with Jason as Miles. What's more, Nora battle off Minutemen. Charlie creeps from the rubble of the ringer tower, just to acknowledge she is encircled by Monroe's men shrouded in trash. Charlie stays put and ascertains her choices. In the interim, Neville conveys Jason to a safe area, then lays him on the ground to rest for a second 7 years. After the power outage, Miles and his men look for Ben, as Rachel observes. However, she realizes he won't ever be tracked down. Rachel and Ben have heard the tales about Miles, the butcher of Baltimore, and would penance themselves before they would allow him to saddle power back in the presently takes Rachel and Aaron to his home, trusting they will recuperate his child Philip, who experienced serious wounds in a fall. Rachel says they can recuperate his child, yet they should return store. He found them in Rachel and Aaron lead Blackmore back to the store, where Rachel jumps all over the main chance to thump him out. Aaron is stunned. He thought they were really going to help the youngster, yet Rachel realizes their main goal is to reach the pinnacle and they can't get occupied. Rachel uncovers her main objective is to give capacity to Monroe's adversaries, so the one who killed her child can kick the bucket, and assuming Aaron is not going to help, she has no issue abandoning him. Monroe's men encompass Miles and Nora. However, the agitators proceed to trade fire. Despite everything, Miles plans to make a run for it to find Charlie. However, Nora beseeches him not to, understanding that Miles won't turn around without safeguarding Charlie. Nora makes a run for it. Rather, this transitory interruption is only the break. Charlie Requirements to make a run for it herself as the two ladies stumble into the front line. Miles takes out befuddled Minutemen one by one in a flashback 7 years later. The power outage Rachel is presently attached to a seat yet will not illuminate Miles of Ben's whereabouts notwithstanding his statements. She doesn't uncover anything to the man back in the current. Miles figures out how to protect Charlie some way or another during the most intense part of the conflict. Nora has vanished. Later Jason wakes up in an Atlanta clinic to find Charlie holding up close by. He apologizes for abandoning Charlie. Charlie realizes it was not his shortcoming and the two kiss without precedent for Philadelphia. Significant Oliver illuminates Monroe that his eventual professional killer has been caught. The Georgian government agent has admitted to the wrongdoing and vicious cross-examination has uncovered he worked alone. Jeremy had nothing to with the endeavor on Monroe's life back in Atlanta. Miles is restless, also offended to have lost Nora. President Encourage tells Miles she is unnerved by Monroe's approaching attack on her capital in the wake of having lost portion of her men in the aeronautical assault. She communicates her will to give up except if Miles has a splendid arrangement to deflect the approaching obliteration back in Philadelphia. Nora has been caught by the state army and she is brought to Monroe. Nora, now in Monroe's guardianship, is given a humble white dress in her jail cell and requested to put it on. Monroe has arranged a decent dinner for Nora as she hesitantly sits at the table. He smooth talk her in an endeavor to extricate Miles' current area as opposed to letting him know. Nora snatches a container of wine and swings it at Monroe. She is handily avoided by Monroe. He arranges his watchman to take Nora away. When Monroe catches wind of the Pinnacle, he takes Randall in to be interrogated. Realizing that Randall kept him in the dim about the Pinnacle, Monroe orders him killed, guaranteeing that he is the one to focus on. Who can get Monroe into the Pinnacle? Randall wins his visit of execution. Promising to betray is the least he can do. There are devices and innovation there even the president did not know about. When Sanborn affirms Randall's story, Monroe chooses to head for Colorado. Rachel and Aaron reach Colorado in the heavy storm. Sanborn gets away from Autonomy Corridor and drives Nora out of Philadelphia in Georgia. Miles cross-examines Sanborn, from which he figures out how Monroe has come to be aware about the Pinnacle and is going there. Outside, when Jason and Charlie kiss in the center of the road, he sees a man who is uncovered to be a vindictive covert operative. Realizing Rachel is made a beeline for the Pinnacle herself, Miles alongside Charlie, Neville, Jason, Nora, Hudson, Sam and Ramsey exhausted a helicopter to Colorado. In the meantime, Monroe takes Randall to the Pinnacle to get in. However, he is denied admittance by the framework from the Pinnacle. The two of them are being checked by a gathering inside. Through a surveillance camera on board, Jason streaks back to Atlanta and his discussion with Billings, who says he has some work for Jason. The helicopter has to land at Post Hansen to refuel. However, at the point when they do, somebody kills the pilot, slitting his jugular with a particular hatchet. What's more, meddles with the airplane's wiring. At the point when Miles and Charlie go searching for the executioners, they track down rebel authority Ramsey on the ground, draining out Miles. Attempts to keep Ramsey alive long enough to sort out who is capable yet. Ramsey bites the dust before he uncovers to Miles who the executioner is. Rachel and Aaron show up at the Pinnacle, where they find that Monroe's men are exploring the great outdoors outside the entry. Aaron doesn't have the foggiest idea how they will get inside, yet Rachel has an arrangement that evening she will kill Monroe, and in the resulting tumult, Aaron will make a run for it utilizing Dr. Warren's journal to get to the entryway with nobody around. Miles understands the homicide needs to be among their own gathering. Nora is no place to be found, so Miles gathers everybody's weapons in a pack. He tosses the sack inside the helicopter, saving a firearm for himself. Then he goes out to look for Nora. He tracks down her, face down on the ground with a ridiculous arm and a blade, dreading she might have been killed. Yet Nora is fine, with the exception of eventual outcomes of Sanborn's medications. Everybody suspects Nora of the killings, yet Miles doesn't accept it is her anyway. She lets Miles know that the gathering could be correct. Miles look through the pack of weapons to check for blood until he sees Jason mishandling with something in his pocket, a horrendous switchblade. Jason quickly says somebody established that on him when Charlie asks Jason whom he was conversing with back at the camp. He concedes that Billings, a vindictive covert operative, requested that he kill Miles in trade for Charlie's security, yet Jason denied. Miles then, at that point, takes out his weapon, yet is kept from terminating by Charlie and Neville, which gives Jason the chance to run. Miles looks for Jason without any result and is at last come by Sanborn, who tells Miles the blade could never be Jason's. It has the initials AMD stepped on it, which represents Annapolis, Maryland, where the blade was made, and it's impossible for Jason to have been to the spot as of late. Unexpectedly, a discharge rings out and Sanborn goes down before he can uncover the executioner, who ends up being Hudson. Miles asks Hudson for what good reason he did it. Hudson tells Miles the volunteer army has his significant other and they are taking steps to kill her, except if he works for them. He was the person who gave Monroe Miles' area at Ashland, provoking the robot strike, and he knows killing Miles, Neville and the others would mean well-being for his better half. With no other decision, Miles and Hudson battle to the passing. However, similarly, as it appears as though Hudson has acquired the high ground, Jason appears suddenly and shoots him when Nora wraps up fixing the helicopter. Miles moves into the co-pilot's seat. Furthermore, the gathering resumes their excursion to Colorado. Back at the local army camp, Rachel kills one of Monroe's men and takes his uniform. That very night she goes around searching for Monroe in his tent. Rachel then uncovers herself to him and throws a projectile at him. It's gratitude for watching. Subscribe and hit that like button to assist our channel with developing. Turn on the